So let's talk about something huge. How does a document written on parchment over 200 years ago, the U.S. Constitution, actually apply to our crazy modern digital world? Well, the answer involves the Supreme Court, and let me tell you, it's a really fascinating and, yeah, often controversial process.
It all kicks off with these words. You've heard them before, right? The preamble. It's basically the mission statement for the entire country. It's the promise of what the nation is trying to be, and it sets the stage for the whole blueprint that comes next.
And right here, this is the core challenge. How do you take these principles, written back in the 1700s, and apply them to things the framers couldn't even have dreamed of? Think about the internet or global finance. This fundamental question is exactly what makes the Constitution a living document, something that's constantly interacting with our lives. So, before we get into how it's interpreted, we first have to understand the blueprint itself. What was it actually designed to do in the first place?
The easiest way to think about it is like the ultimate rule book for the country. You can see here it lays out the three main branches of government, it carefully splits up the power between them, and, this is absolutely crucial, it establishes the fundamental rights of the people. Pretty much everything else is built on this foundation.
But this is where things get tricky. The words on the page are fixed, but society? It's always changing. So when new technologies pop up or new social questions come to the forefront, you're going to have conflict. And that central question, who gets to decide what the old rules mean right now, that leads us straight to the judicial branch. So, who are the official interpreters of this blueprint? Well, that brings us to these 9 individuals, the justices of the Supreme Court. Their whole job is to take that foundational text and figure out how it applies to the incredibly complex disputes of today. And the most powerful tool they have to do this is a power that, funnily enough, isn't even written in the Constitution itself. This power is called judicial review, and it is the court's ultimate authority. It means that if Congress passes a law or if the president takes a certain action, the Supreme Court gets the final say on whether that move is constitutional. It's the ultimate check on the other 2 branches of government. This quote from a super important 1803 case called Marbury versus Madison just nails it. The court's power isn't just to read the law. As it says right here, it's the power to definitively say what the law is. And when they say it, that becomes the final word for everybody. Okay, so with this incredible power to say what the law is, how does the court actually go about shaping the nation? Let's take a look at how they craft these landmark decisions that can literally change everything across the country.
Now, it's really important to get this. Not every case is a landmark case. We're talking about the big ones, the decisions that fundamentally shift the boundaries of government power and our individual rights, leaving a major, lasting impact on all of society. And just look at the scope here. Their impact is incredibly wide-ranging. Their decisions can touch on the balance of power in Washington, D.C., the rules for our economy, our basic ideas of equality, and even our most personal and private rights.
I mean, think about the famous 2000 case of Bush v. Gore. Their ruling on how ballots were counted in Florida effectively decided a presidential election. Or how about Citizens United versus FEC in 2010? That one completely reshaped the rules for campaign finance, totally changing how money works in our politics.
And more recently, in Obergefell versus Hodges, the court redefined a fundamental right when it legalized same-sex marriage all across the country. These are just a few examples that show you the immense, real-world consequences of interpreting the Constitution. Okay, let's make this even more concrete. Let's actually trace the line from the original words to a very modern, very heated issue, just to see exactly how this whole process works.
This slide really shows you the process in action. So, on the left, you've got the blueprint, the First Amendment's protection of the freedom of speech. Then on the right, you have a really tough modern question. Is burning the American flag a form of protected speech? In that 1989 case, Texas versus Johnson, the court had to answer that. They had to figure out if the framers' idea of speech also included this kind of symbolic protest. That right there is constitutional interpretation.
This whole process, from the original text to the court's interpretation to a landmark ruling, it really proves that the Constitution isn't some static, dusty relic in a museum. It's an ongoing conversation. It is very much alive.
And this quote, it just captures the key takeaway perfectly. The Constitution is a work in progress, and it's right at the center of a really passionate, often deeply divided national conversation. There isn't one single, easy answer for how it should be understood, which is exactly why the Supreme Court's job is so vital and so controversial. And that leaves us with one final thought, doesn't it?
As our technology keeps evolving, as new social questions keep popping up, what's going to be the next great constitutional test? Is it going to be about data privacy? Artificial intelligence? Maybe something we can't even predict yet. The conversation continues, and that blueprint will be there, just waiting to be interpreted all over again.